Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby here with the wonderful Tony-nominated director of Merrily We Roll Along, Maria Friedman. Congratulations, Maria. This is you've had such a long journey with this production to Broadway. So how did it feel to hear your name as a Tony nominee that morning?
Oh my goodness me. It was ridiculous. I wasn't prepared for how much it really meant to me. You kind of steel yourself up. You have a little kind of defense thing going on thing. Of course I want to be nominated, but then as it was happening, I was like, when I actually heard my name, you go a bit deaf. I don't know if anyone's told you this, that you can't quite hear whether you actually had your name said or not. You have to kind of take a beat and say, that was me, wasn't it? And then it was wonderful. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled.
Yes, and it's a musical you have a really long-standing relationship with. You first acted in this piece in 1992. But
Mhm.
at what point did you say, okay, I think I have something to say with this, I want to direct it?
When my husband told me that I had to get out of the house between jobs, I had a 3 month period where I was going from one contract to another, and I had a 3 month gap. And I'd been asked to direct at a drama school called Central School of Speech and Drama. And I said no. And he said, oh, Maria, please do it. Number one, I think you're a director. Wait, actually, the three was up to number one, you go nutty if you like haven't got something really to do. And I really believe you're a director. And he suggested Merrily We Roll Along, because he'd been in it. He'd played Frank at his drama school, and I'd been in it actually playing Mary with Stephen Sondheim and George Firth coming over and doing their new version using a group of British actors. So it was really, I didn't think I had anything to say until I went in and started working with actors and recognized it was just something I loved to do. It was like when something really fits you properly. It didn't feel complicated, it didn't feel difficult. It just felt something I really wanted to do. It wasn't just a kind of whim. What started off as something to do became something like, oh my goodness, how another way of telling stories.
Do you think your experience as an actor gives you kind of a special insight, a way to talk to them in the moment in
Yeah,
creation?
I mean, I've worked with lots and lots of directors over my 40-year career. I actually haven't worked with any director who's an actor. I'm just trying to, I haven't, or was an actor. I I hope it gives me something. Well, whatever, it does give me something, whether it works for the actors or not, you have to ask them. But it does make me investigate from a very detailed perspective, because when you're playing a part, you have to interrogate every inch of it. Um, I think lots of directors do that anyway. I definitely have an empathy with what the process is for an actor. That each person has a different process. It doesn't come. There's no kit that you come with. You come with this kit, this memory, this heart, this life experience, and each person will have a way of finding that. And in a room, everyone, I always think of it, somebody else said this to me, it's like that people cook at different speeds. Some people are a salad and they come out right, ready, crisp and ready to go. Other people are kind of a long, slow cook, and it just all happens in a different way. And that's the thing I know I have, is an idea that I don't want it immediately. I don't want what they have immediately, but it's a conversation, and it's how to really bring somebody to the best of themselves. And the other thing I know as an actor is that we think, oh, that's it, here it is, I've done it. And there's always a little bit more. And a great director will encourage you to that little bit more that is not always easy to get to, because you put it away somewhere. You've covered it up. It might be the stuff that you've really covered up to protect yourself. That's the really interesting stuff that I want to get to. And you have to earn your trust, and you have to earn the respect, the trust, and the I use the word not lightly, love that I have for the people that I work for, and gratitude. They have to know that that's a genuine thing before they can bring that into a room. And I know every single person in my show, Merrily, brings that other thing into the room.
Well, I think, as people have seen this show, the thing I keep hearing from people is, oh, she's cracked it. She's finally figured out Merrily, because this is a show that Stephen and George famously tinkered with and kept returning to a lot.
Mm.
Why are people saying that? What is there a particular angle you felt like you had with the material?
Well, it's very lovely that people say I cracked it. Remember, Stephen and George wrote this thing. I didn't write it. I've cracked. Yes, a theatre more than any other art form is the most collaborative. And Stephen was the first person. You talk about his writers to him, they're his family, his children, his directors. If when he got on with them, are his family, and he loved actors. I think I had three advantages. One, 40 years life working with Steve, a recognition that he had said over and over again how much he wanted people to see his shows, how much he wanted the whole show to be done, not reviews, not concerts, but the shows that he and his collaborators had worked on. He believed they belonged in plays, in the words, not separate. I mean, the wonderful thing is you can take these songs and extrapolate them, but he really wanted his shows done. And thirdly, that he was very hurt by people not understanding that all he ever did is write love songs. He was not a cold, acerbic man. He was a man who really was interested in investigating the human condition. So he was everything he said. If you pick any song, you'll see the center of it is love, wanting love, missing love, hoping for love, lost love, anything. It's always, and sometimes all of those things all in tandem, changing over a period of a song. So that's my first set of wonderful things that I had. So when I first worked with his work, I wanted to make sure that it was full top to bottom with love. And not hard to do. There it was. And the second thing is, I think every director needs a point of view. And my point of view was clearly that it was a memory play, which is not necessarily in the script, and that it is from Frank's perspective, which I think gives a clarity to all the characters, because all roads lead to Frank. So we're very clear in the determination of and trajectory of where this narrative is arriving at. And the last thing being that I'm very aware of the scaffolding and the structure that Steve always gives his pieces. And you will fail if you try and be as clever as him, because he's the cleverest person in the room always. But that isn't what he's trying to be. That just is who he is. What he is trying to do is to tell a story about humanity and its struggles. And so he leaves a space. If you look at how many different shaped Mrs. Lovitts, or shaped Sweeneys, or shaped witches, or shaped, I'm talking about personality shape, whether you have Bernadette Peters or Hannah Waddingham, same part. Both played the witch. There's room for your casting, which comes, you have to have a full kit to come into that space. If you're somebody who just wants to turn it in and show off and sing, not going to work. You have to bring that other element. Then there's magic. And I know that both as a performer and as a director. I want to fill the gaps he left us on purpose, not a gap that he left because he hadn't written it. He left it because he's a proper theatre maker. He's not prescriptive. He's not a man who goes, this is how it goes. He goes, this is the shape. This is the narrative. Now what do you bring? And so when I was directing it, when I came to him and said, should we have a conversation? He said, don't talk to me about this. I said, but I want to do it for you. He said, don't you dare do it for me. Do it for you. Do it for you. Do it wholly for you. Then I'll come and see it at the beginning of the previews. If I don't like it, trust me, you'll know. But you have to come clean and whole, not trying to interpret somebody else's ideas. Your interpretation is what's interesting on that page. And that's why he's proper. That's why his shows will go on forever and ever and ever. They're not cookie cutter shows. They're not factory shows. Every time you recast, you will recast. My covers are entirely different people, and they've all pretty well all been on, and they are not, I haven't tried to make them the same. And everyone always goes, Maria, thank you so much for letting me bring me to the role. And the cast who are playing opposite them go, it's fantastic. They're not trying to be Lindsay. They're being wholly themselves. So we have something to play with. And the other thing, I'll talk about monologue. The other thing is, what's really important is you stay in the moment as an actor. So when a cover goes on, you don't play the beats that you played with me, Lindsay. You play the beats that you receive. Means everything is present. Everything means something. It's not, I decide this and now I'm off. Every day is new, listening, acting, responding. Takes unbelievable skill and discipline from the actors. But ultimately, it's less damaging on your psyche to be fresh and new every day. The audience is new. You've had a different day. There's somebody different on the stage. The whole thing is an alchemy of now. You go to the theatre, you get that show, not yesterday's show, not last week's show. You get that show. They're the things that I push into anything I do, both as performer and as director.
Well, your cast is certainly bringing a lot of skill. The core trio, they're all were nominated with Jonathan, Daniel, Lindsay. Have they kind of anything they brought to the table surprised you in the way they filled in those gaps that you're talking about?
No, not surprising. Gratified, excited, excited that they were able to do. And I suppose not surprising. Rewarding. And constantly in awe and dazzled by. I wouldn't. I think the words. No. What I'm surprised by is by doing something from your heart and soul in a very simple, clear way can have this unbelievable impact on an audience. That's been just the most wonderful experience, how much this show means to Americans more than anything else. It belongs to you. He wrote it for you. It belongs in a Broadway house. And seeing it in the space that they were, that's the thing I think that surprised me most, is when we were to New York Theatre Workshop, beautiful Jim Nicola found it. We did it at Boston as well, at the Huntington Theatre. It worked so beautifully in the Huntington. It was a big space, had air, the ideas could fly. And I thought, oh, great, we're going to get the intimate New York Theatre Workshop. The play changes in its space. It becomes another thing. And I think that's the thing I've learned more than anything, is that it was a really intimate, exciting moment in that small, intimate theatre. Then we moved to the Hudson on Broadway in a space that Stephen had written the piece for. And it just had this other dimension, because the ideas come out past the audience and into the street. They fly. They need that space to fly. So it grows. You get a different experience in each theatre. But I'm very happy it's where it was meant to be.
Yeah. How much work does it take to alter it to a new theater? Because when I was watching it, I'm thinking this does feel, even though we are in this big space, it feels like intimate. It feels that simplicity, the beautiful simplicity of it connects so easily in that big space, even though it's not like a big lacage, grand sequence and all that. It's a smaller scale musical in a way. So how do you make that adjustment?
Well, I think clarity of ideas fly. If you're reading a book and something gets you, I mean, it like gets in, it just, doesn't it? Like, I think ideas, they travel, and with the clarity of thought and clarity of ideas, you could fill any space. I'm sing a lot in concerts, and I find the Albert Hall as exciting as I do a small cabaret thing. And I'm not intimidated by it, because if you're clear, it's going, the thoughts going. In terms of how much work, everything takes work. Nothing just comes out of it. So it's relighting, restaging to make sure that you've got the focus for those thoughts to be received in the right way. If everybody's just bashing around on the stage, without any idea of. So it's about the staging, about the lighting. I think if you speak to any of the cast, I was really, really determined that we brought the audience to us rather than throw it over the footlights. Like a lot of other musicals, you expected to sort of out and bang. I wanted lots of proper conversations, often in profile, even with the back to the audience. So that I call it an indie movie. We do an indie musical. It's an indie musical where we stay true, quiet, detailed. When we choose to go out and cross the footlights with, for instance, our questioners, our beautiful, beautiful cast who come out and walk straight forward and just ask us with love and generosity about how did you get to be here, which is the question I ask myself every day. And at different times of my life, it's been with gratitude, and different times of my life, how did I get to be here, with total dismay? I mean, it's a great question to ask oneself, isn't it? Yeah, so yeah, just keeping it true, communicating, listening is a big key in this show. To have, I mean, what the wonderful thing about our show is that nobody actually listens to each other. That's why they're in the state they're in. So, they think they're hearing, they think they're receiving, but they're actually assuming and presuming on each other a lot. That's the key to our show, is to stick to your own perspective as Frank, Mary, or Charlie, or not many of them are trying to get each other to listen. Katie's song, Not a Day Goes By, is one of the few times when she goes, and Franklin Shepherding, they're both similar in the conceit of the fact that they are saying, I love you, look at me, I've always loved you, I miss you, every beat of every day. They're love songs, they're massive love songs, but they are trying to communicate. Now is trying to communicate. It's not always received. That's the thing. We can give with all our hearts, but if you can't receive it, then
Yes. Well, the audience has received it, certainly, because this has become, I mean, the hottest ticket of the season. I think it is crazy to think about how this musical that really had such a short Broadway life when Stephen first brought it here is now this massive success. You're in a very unique position to have known him. What do you think he would say about all this, to see it take on this life?
like always, he'd be very funny about it. But quietly, how could you not be proud and pleased that what you always knew you'd written is being received and vindicated? I mean, I'm putting words. One of the things Steve told me, don't ever speak for me, and don't ever tell anybody what I might have thought or what I might think. So if he was here, I would say, I'm sorry, I can't tell you, you've got to ask him. But he's not here. I know he would have sat and been. He saw this production, by the way. He saw it in London, and so he chose it to come. So he knew. We had interpreted his piece the way he wanted it, and he wrote a piece about it saying that this was sometimes a musical is better than the sum of its parts, with the casting and the director and everything just sort of came together. So he wrote that to all of us. I don't agree. I think he wrote the genius musical, and we have done him proud. And hopefully, my job as a director is to take my writer's work and get it to the audience in as clear and most concentrate form as possible. And he would have been pleased with that. He would definitely have had 1,000 things he would have said and wanted to say to everybody about his piece. But I wouldn't presume to say it, but he would have definitely taken me out for a very, very large meal and a drink and laughed a lot. The reviews would have tickled him pink, but he had great reviews all his, the last 40 years of his life. But the box office success, that's something he wanted all his life. He said he wanted musicals to be popular and seen by as many people as possible. He made musicals. He then made them into films. He wanted them seen. Frank makes musicals and he makes them into films. Nothing wrong in having 2 out of 2 shows hit. That's what he wanted. He wanted a hit. You don't write a art piece. You're writing to communicate.
Well, it's wonderful work bringing this to Broadway, Maria. So thank you so much for sitting down with me today. For everyone out there, make sure you stick with Gold Derby the rest of this season. Maria, thank you once again.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening and watching. Thank you.